Hi. Okay. So I'm going to be a little formal about it, just so that I make sure I say all the things that I wanted to say to you. So welcome to our live Q&A for our week of free streaming for A Balinese Tempest. This past week was the first time the film has been viewed by people outside of the theater where it was performed in 2005. Thank you so much for watching. We will have the film available free until Monday evening. It will end at midnight. And then beyond that, you are welcome to stream it for a very small rental fee. So it doesn't just go away. We are grateful to Kathleen Dargis for editing it for us. This film is part of our invigorated efforts to develop an accessible archive of nearly 50 years of shadow theater by Shadowlight Productions and Larry Reed. Special thanks to Faith Vasquez, who is on here showing scenes from A Balinese Tempest, and to Lydia Greer and Farley Guazda for their ongoing work on our archive. I'd like to quickly introduce our panelists now that we're all here. Larry is, some of you may know, Larry Reed is our artistic director and the founder of Shadowlight Productions in San Francisco. We have Carla Fabrizio. She was, for this piece, the musical director and the music coordinator, and is a fabulous performer in her own right, and you will see her performing in this piece backstage. And we now have Madame Moja, who was our artistic director and the shadow puppet and mask designer and creator of many of these pieces, and also as a performer in this show. So we have some questions that were submitted ahead of time to us that we will begin with. So for those of you who are here right now in our live Q&A, you can click on the Q&A at the bottom of your screen to type your questions in there. If you would, let's see, if you would like a specific panelist to answer, please type their name first before your question. You all as attendees may comment in the Q&A box or upvote questions if perhaps that was one that you were going to ask. Also, if you would prefer to ask your question out loud rather than typing it, just quickly type, I know this is still typing, but type live Q into the Q&A box, and I can make you temporarily a panelist so that we can see you and hear you ask your question rather than typing it all out. Otherwise, I'll be typing the answers to the questions for everyone to read. I'm going to try to keep this at about an hour, but if there are any burning desires at the end, perhaps some panelists will agree to stick around and answer. Otherwise, please email us at info@shadowlight.org with any further questions that you have. There's also a brief poll at the bottom of your screen. It'd be great if you all would fill it out. Truly brief, like yes or no questions, about 5 of them. Okay. So I'll excuse myself and turn it over to the questions, which I can ask questions right out right now, or if you'd like to introduce the piece a little bit, Larry.
Let's start with questions.
Okay, great. Well, then let me get the first question that we had that was emailed to us from Danielle Rocha. I hope I'm saying that correctly. She's a viewer from Brazil. She wrote, "For me, it was amazing. I'm an artist and my research is in mask, light design, and shadow theater, so I loved it. I was curious about the material, where you painted the clouds. In Portuguese, it's transparencias or acetado, so she's asking about what the material is for the scenes. Another curiosity is about..."
Stop right there, do that first. What you mentioned is acetate, and acetate is a clear plastic, but it has a texture to it when you project light through it. So what we use is called clear polyester, and when you project a light through it, there is no image, no texture, which is why we like it. The brand name for it here is Duralar. And Moja can tell us what kind of inks and paints we use when we do the scenery.
Especially for you mentioning about the clouds, like more specific, we the medium we use like ink, we call Chinese ink or Indian ink, and sometimes you can find rapidograph rapidograph ink, waterproof, and also you can use the spray paints as well.
Great. And then the rest of the question, Carol?
Sure. So let's see. Another curiosity that she had is about the puppets and the materials, about the mask puppet. I think maybe what the puppets and the masks were made out of. And then she also wants to know, what's the process like rehearsing with all puppets and artists? That's kind of an overarching process question. And then she has a third question, which we can address later.
Okay, so the first part is we often use a cardboard, railroad board, 6-ply or 8-ply, especially if we're doing the first versions of puppets and masks. Later on, we might go to a more durable material if they're getting a lot of heavy use. And there was one more part to that question. I forget exactly.
The other part of the question was just the curiosity of how do you synthesize all of the puppeteers and performers together?
The most important thing that we ever do is have everybody at every rehearsal. And in that way, things go smoothly. When that doesn't happen that way, then we have to keep starting over and the coordination gets much more difficult. We generally don't even have a stage manager because by the time we get to that part, to close to a performance, everybody knows what's going on every 30 seconds of the entire show. So that if something were to go wrong, we would know how to fix it. And one time that did happen with another show when the lights went out and Moja figured out how to do the show with no lights. by going front and behind the screen with a flashlight and a candle.
Oh, so that can go into a question that we received on Facebook. Trub, I believe is your last name. I'm not sure how to pronounce your whole name. What kind of lamplight or source do you use for casting shadows?
Well, a single point light source is the key to our kind of shadow theater. If you're doing the kind of shadow theater where you're pushing the puppet against the screen, you can use any kind of light source. And for example, the Balinese use a flame, and that's actually my favorite light source in the world. For projected shadows, you need something that is unlike a movie projector. A movie projector is in focus at the screen only. And a single point light source is in focus from a certain focal point, depending on how big the point source is, all the way to the screen, so that we can have layers of scenery, puppets, and actors all in focus together, all in different planes. And the lights we're currently using are halogen bulbs. And LED lights look promising. Sometimes we use LED flashlights. The best light we've ever used is a xenon arc lamp, but they cost $800 a bulb. So we wanted to do something more accessible to people, so we shifted away from that towards halogen lights.
Thank you. And I am typing some of these answers that Larry and the panelists will be giving into the chat. I have disabled the chat for everybody else, but that's just to keep things a little bit clean. So I'm going to ask another question that was sent in ahead of time. This one is from Carla Brandt from Tallahassee, Florida, with 1,000 thanks for transporting her to another place and time. She's a long ago member of Seka Gong Hanuman Agong at Florida State. She stated, "It's magnificent, enthralling, funny, and inspired. Thank you so much." Her question is, are the human puppets and two-faced masks your own invention, or do they come from another place or time? Did we lose Larry?
Ask the question one more time.
It was, are the human puppets and two-faced masks your own invention, or do they come from another place or time?
Oh, well, the two-faced mask, I think I kind of did invent it. Before that, people had been doing just one thing attached to the back of their head. And I went through a whole rehearsal process, putting a nose on the side of my face. And then it grew and gradually into a mask because I realized that as an actor, you need to be able to compose your shadow. in order to do that, you need to be able to see the screen. And that's what led to, and also I wanted to be able to turn left and turn right. So that's what led to the development of the double mask.
Will you put that mask on your head? Is that Prospero?
This Prospero.
Prospero. I believe that Prospero is here in our Q&A as well. Rose Nisker played Prospero's shadow here. Let's see. I have one more from Carla Brandt. And this might be for you, Faith. She notes at 3336, oh no, this might be a question for Carla here. Does that instrument have two sets of keys, one atop the other? And where did that style come from? Such an ethereal sound. Are they wooden keys? And I don't know if we can find that instrument at 3336.
Oh, defend me! Four legs. Oh, see to see. Yes, shadow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the gamelan. Is Carla there?
I'm here, but we have so many instruments. We used two sets of, maybe even three sets of different instruments. So I'm really not sure which
At least
one
three
you mean.
sets. I think there was Kebyar. Was there Anklang possibly?
There was no kebyar.
What was it?
There was the 4-note onklung, then the 5-note onklung, and then the Ginder wayang,
Yeah.
and then like a balaganjur.
And Blaganjur, which is the marching one, which is the one that we see in shadow. And one of the instruments that I really love is the rayon. Want to talk about a rayon a little bit, Carla? These
Well,
are the
I
pots.
wanted to know which, since Carla bothered to ask about a specific instrument, but I can look up in my version and see exactly what 30, what was it, 30?
Well,
33,
33 shows
3336. She said, where did that style come from? Are they wooden keys?
I think we must be looking at Barbara playing Damon there. I can see instruments at 3320.
Yeah, this the one.
Okay, well, those are bronze instruments. And those are actually Sam Watman's instruments. We borrowed them for this performance. And there are 2 octaves of a 5-note scale. And they're bronze keys above bamboo resonators.
She had another question about the music, and there was a time code at 3705. What gamelan styles or traditions use the same hand to play as well as damp the previous note?
Gender, I guess.
Ginder, the instrument you saw, which we call Ginder, and then also the Rayong has a same kind of where you damp. So I think the question there is different though. It's not using both hands. It's using one hand to damp and one hand to play.
Like that, exactly, right.
Yeah. If these answers aren't complete enough, or it's, yeah, I want to bring up my own copy so I can just easily go to the times. People. But yeah, if you're not getting enough of an answer, you can type it later, and I'll send you an email.
Yeah, great idea. You can type it into the Q&A again if you are here, Carla, and if not, you could, let's see, anyone who wants to know can email us at info. She also wanted to know, is there a recording of the music available to buy, or perhaps other works by the composer, who was Aimade Terip? Did I say his name correctly?
Terip.
Terip.
Yeah.
Aimade Terip. And is a Balinese Tempest available on DVD?
Not yet. We're experimenting with just doing streaming because people don't seem to be buying DVDs that often. But it's possible to do a one-off here and there if there's enough interest.
And was
the rest
there a
of the-
recording of the music for this piece?
I can't find anything in addition to this board recording. This was from the board. So it's
But there
got the,
must be aren't there other recordings of stuff you did with Puck Trip?
oh, I was talking about the Tempest. Yeah,
she's
there,
asking about both.
yeah,
she's
there are
interested.
recordings of Pat Trip's pieces. He's a pretty well-known composer in Bali, so you should even just be able to YouTube his name and come up with at least some few good things.
I typed his name in the chat if anyone would like to look him up, the composer, Aymare Terip. Okay, I'm going to move on. Oh, we have one more question that came in ahead of time. This is from Aloha from David Samus. My 12-year-old is studying Shakespeare and wants to know why you like to work with him. What challenges does it present to a shadow puppet audience, and why The Tempest is such a favorite of yours?
Well, The Tempest I like because I know it so well. I first performed it in high school. Shakespeare in shadow is difficult in the sense that usually shadow imagery doesn't sustain long speeches. So I've done it both as a complete and unabridged Balinese wayang, where I was doing all the parts. And in this case, I did a very careful edit, taking out a lot of repetitive stuff and keeping the key phrases so that it would move along at a good pace and be enjoyable as a shadow play. And I think that Shakespeare is an amazing writer. It's just incredible. When I just reviewing the whole text that we've gone through here, it's beautiful, very beautiful. And I think I would like to do some other Shakespeare, but I keep coming back to this one because I know it so well. I actually can say the whole thing, and it really annoys people sometimes. But it's fun.
This may have answered Jarrell Henderson's question. He was one of our summer workshop attendees from Chicago. Hi, Jarrell. There's so much fantastical language and ideas in The Tempest. How did you decide what to bring to life physically and what to keep as dialogue?
Well, yeah, basically, if it was something that was repetitive, I would drop it. And then the one key with doing shadows is that they're limited. There's a number of things you can do, but if you stay within that, you make it feel like you could do anything. So that's what we kind of try to do when we're staging a show. One interesting thing that happened in this show was that we had the puppets and the actors copying each other in a way that we haven't necessarily done before, especially Stefano and Trinculo and Miranda. They were all really behaving very closely to how their puppets behaved. And so that was an interesting thing to me. And then another thing at some point we should get into is scenery, because there's a lot to talk about there. But I think that answers Jarrell's question.
Thank you. So this is a question I think Moja could answer from Lynn Marvette. She'd like to understand how mirrors are used. She enjoyed seeing so much of the backstage work, truly magical. Thank you. Could you tell us about the mirrors, Moja?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, we paint the mirrors with it's two things we do there in that process with the mirrors. We paint with the inks, the Indian wing that I mentioned earlier, and also we carve and put some template on top of the plexiglass actually, so you can bend it, the mirrors. So when you bend it, we project it, project into the light, and then like bounce back to the screen. So by moving the mirrors on your hand, so you can see the reflection on the screen. So you can bend it and then look much movement, you can find the artistic way, you know, how you move it with the mirrors, the plexiglass mirrors. And any other question about this mirror? So
yeah, I typed it into the Q&A, so if anyone wanted to see the answer that Moja gave as well, we use plexi mirrors that are painted on with ink and sometimes covered with paper. They create a sort of reverse shadow puppet. Oh, and then how do you position the light in order to perform it on the screen? I would guess I would ask that as a further question.
I mean, for the mirrors?
Yes.
Okay, for the mirror, as we put on the ground, the mirror, I mean the light on the ground. So the mirrors usually we standing up, or we just like standing up or just sitting down.
Excuse
so
me,
like
hold on.
above the light. So and that's where we can cast it much easier to the screens. So.
Thank you. And while we are listening,
Am I?
Are you Larry?
Myself. Am I unmuted now?
you are unmuted now.
Okay, so if we look at 105.22, there's a good shot of people using mirrors.
So Faith will show us, did you say
105.22.
10522? All right. While Faith is pulling up that image of mirror puppets, let's see. Did you want to talk a bit about the scenery and how the scenery was projected onto the screen, Moja?
Yes, sure. So for the scenery, so we use 3 panel, like 3 set of the scenery in the back. So we have a 3, oh, this is the mirrors. So if you see here, and the light is just on the floor, so we're standing up, so to project the shadow, the mirror on the screens. Is that, yeah, that's about the light and mirrors. So so we continue about the scenery.
Yeah.
Okay, the scenery, like we have a 3 panel set behind the screen, and each set they have a 1 light. So we, between the lights from the scenery is about 2 feet from the light, and then we project to the screen.
If you look at 1111, there's a good shot of the one of the screens. There.
Yeah, here this at least this light 1, and I think this far left side, the scenery, the far left side, and then we have 3 of them, 1 in the middle and 1 or far down right.
All right.
All right, thank you. So let's see, we have, I'm looking through our questions here. Charles Falk, I'm not sure if we answered your question that are the daughter a member of the group? And I'm not, I wanted some clarification of that. If you could type back. And then we have a question from Deborah Bruce Hostler. Did very many members of the crew and musicians have a personal relationship with Shakespeare coming to this project? I remember our circle of mindfulness before each performance. Did you invoke the spirit or shadow of Shakespeare Prospero before each performance? It seemed like you did.
I actually don't remember, but usually we do a circle before every show, and we concentrate on what we're doing and think about the spirit of what we're trying to present.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of comment on something related to that that really struck me when we first started working on this and we met just to discuss it and talk about it. I remember Larry was, he had already figured out sort of a mapping between the main characters to the characters that he's used to working in traditional Balinese plays. And so, you know, Gonzalo was Tualin, and Tricolo was Sangut, and Stefano was Dalam, and you know, so that in that way it really helped those of us who are familiar with Balinese Wayang and Mahabharata to sort of identify with the characters. And I think it was also really important for the composer to be able to find the music that was right for each of the characters. So I think in that sense, I sort of touches your question a little bit. So there was something that we were familiar with in the fact that Larry had done that sort of mapping for us to understand better.
It's kind of like translating archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. We have a question from Terry and Savannah Hunter, and then looks like maybe your name's cut off there. What have been the responses of Balinese people to the story of The Tempest, or perhaps the Balinese performers who were involved in this production, or those who viewed it?
You know, it was only performed in San Francisco. Everybody involved with the performance, I think, really enjoyed the process. I'm kind of amazed at how well we all did, because at the same time as we were doing this show, we also produced a gamelan festival with about 20 different groups. And those people all saw the show. I think that Shakespeare itself, I think that if you're not really familiar with the language, it's a difficult thing. So we tried to make it as visually explicit as possible and make the language fairly concise. Moja, what do you think about what Balinese reactions to The Tempest?
Actually, it's really interesting the way we put it, and also like the characters that Carla mentioning, just like fit with all that element in Balinese shadow puppet, like the clown, for example, and it fit really well with the music and the way Mother Trip create the music, and it worked really well. And then in terms of story, this is really really depth of the story, and really people really enjoy it. That's I heard from that moment and that time with Patrick, and also Pak Sumandi, who's involved with this project as well.
It was really amazing that we happened to be able to get Pak Sumandi and his family on their way to and from another teaching employment somewhere else. Pak Sumandi was my very first shadow teacher. And to be able to work on this show with his two sons, who also helped a lot carving and designing puppets, was really an extraordinary thing. And what we are doing, this style of theater has become its own style in Bali, which is called Wayang Listrik, which means electric shadows. And they've taken it in other directions than I take it, but this is really, I thought it was really great to have all the Balinese people that we're involved with are people that we have long-term relationships with, whether they're musicians or anything else. And so it's really been a great experience for us all to be able to work with Balinese here in this country on these projects, as well as going to Bali and learning more there.
There's another question from Jarell that seems to be in this vein. A lot of the fantastical characters seem to have been adapted from Balinese characters. Who led that conversation? How did you decide Ariel, for example, would be a monkey?
Well, he has a monkey mind. And that was Ariel. I was originally using Hanuman, which is not quite the right monkey. A monkey is good for Ariel because of the way he hops around all the time and is a sprite really who can do anything. As far as some of the fantastical imagery, we looked at magical drawings that are used to cast curses sometimes in Bali and things like that as a source of inspiration for the harpies, for example, who come and scare people here.
We have a comment. Hi, this is Tashi from upstate New York. I was an actor in Larry's play, Xanadu. My wife and I are enjoying this webinar.
Thank you so much, Tashi. It's so good to see what you're doing, and congratulations for all the good work you're doing. Tashi is almost single-handedly keeping Tibetan opera and music alive. He's doing great work.
Wonderful. We have another comment from Pat Murphy. Greetings from Ireland. Thank you so much. Your Tempest is wonderful and the webinar is so insightful.
Great.
Thank you, Pat, for watching it. We have another question from Lynn Marvette. This is a question for all of the panelists. What is currently inspiring you and what projects are you working on and hoping to do next? And I'll let you three decide who wants to answer first. What is currently inspiring you and what projects are you working on and hoping to do next?
You know, yesterday I ran into a lithograph by somebody named Samuel van Hoogstraten, which shows, and I posted it on my Facebook thing if you want to look at it. It's from the 1600s, and it shows exactly the kind of shadow work that we're doing now with changes of perspective and size. And so that's my today's and yesterday's inspiration, becoming reacquainted with that thing again. And beyond that, trying to move ahead with our archive project, where we are trying to make available 50 years of work that really charts the development of shadow theater, our kind of shadow theater from beginning until the current day. And so we still have quite a bit of archival material to edit and so on. So that's one thing that we're looking forward to. And then everybody else is trying to figure out how do we work together separately. And that's pretty hard.
Moja, do you want to answer what you're currently inspired by and what projects you're working on and hope to do next?
For this moment, I'm focused with my visual art painting. So just what happened, I just have some big production in Hawaii, University of Hawaii. Just reflects me how to bring that, the production is about shadow puppet and shadow play too. And then how to reflect my visual art, my paintings. So it's going to be involved a lot of with the shadow. Shadow mean like more serene, more mysterious kind of like feelings on my piece coming up on my painting. So just have a quite rolling relationship about next productions. Probably not till in 3 more years again in University of Hawaii, coming back there, and then hopefully soon with Larry we're gonna do something more more wonderful adventures with Carla as well.
Yeah, Carla, what are you up to? What is inspiring you right now?
Well, going from having like 5 or 6 rehearsals a week to 0 is a change, but I'm trying to, I've been working on trying to do sort of web presentations with different groups of gamelan interested people to look at some historical performances from like Scarjaya or Shadowlight or Clubfoot Orchestra. Right now I'm working on syncing the sound to the silent movie Guna Guna, so that we can have sort of a group viewing of that. And we've been viewing a lot of documentaries. We'll probably be viewing Tempest pretty soon. So I guess that's as exciting. It's sort of exciting. That's what I've been up to.
Yeah, I think we're all exciting in a very depressed way.
At least we're busy.
Yes, this is true. There was another part of the question from Danielle from Brazil, and she asked, how are we able to secure funding for the production? And I can answer that a little bit, but not very well. We are a nonprofit theater company, so we apply for grants from various granting organizations nationally in the United States and in the state of California and locally in the city of San Francisco. And that funding at the time of a Balinese Tempest in 2005 was a bit easier to come by. It's getting a little tighter right now, but that is how we fund all of our productions. We also do some of that through donations from people. All of the money that comes into Shadowlight goes to support artists and productions that we're working on. So I hope that that answers your question. I know it's different country to country, but for us,
I think we are dependent on this grant system here, which has some pluses and a lot of not so good things about it. But we feel it's important to make the shows affordable. So we try to raise almost all the money we need to before we even begin, so that when we have the audience we don't have to charge too much for tickets, and then whatever comes in we can feed directly back to the artists we're working with. So that we try to contain most of our costs through grants, and I wish there was other ways to do it. It always needs to be some sort of subsidy for the arts. I don't know how it's going to happen in the future, but it's gotten more difficult than it was in the past.
I had a quick question for Moja and Carla. If we want to see some of your work or see some of the things that you are up to, do you have a website or a place where you will be posting information about those things?
For the moment, I don't have any website about my artwork. Is that about my artwork? Yes, for the moment, I don't have. It's my visual artwork on the internet. So I'm planning to put some things on the internet, a website.
Yeah, me neither. But I know, Moja, sometimes you post stuff on your Facebook.
Yeah, but not maybe. Yeah, one thing you can check, maybe just only a couple or a few things about. About my artwork there, but not that many. So this could be there after that.
Thank you. One thing that we'll try to do at Shadowlight, and we would love to do if there are any former collaborators in this Q&A session as well, eventually we would hope to be able to have links to all of your work. If you want to show it or want to be connected with us, we'll be posting bios and websites and Facebook links of our former collaborators on our website. And we'll try to keep in touch with Moja and Carla and find out what they're doing, and Shadowlight will post what they're up to on our Facebook and our social media. I just got another question here, this one from Lissa Peterson. She says, hello, I am an elementary school art teacher in Western North Carolina. I so thank you for doing this Zoom. Could you speak about the construction of the screen itself, as well as what the scenery panels are on? she wants to know if they're made out of lumber or what the material for the scenery panels frames, and how are they hung?
All right, so the important thing to know about this kind of screen that we use is that we prefer not to use a woven screen, not a cotton screen or any other kind of woven material, because you see the light source through the holes in the weave. So we use either paper or plastic screens. A lot of times in schools, we use craft paper and roll it out and use clear packing tape to make it exactly the size that fits the room where we're rehearsing with the students. The scenery holders are made of wood, as light as it needs to be. 1x3 or 1x2 is usually enough. The sets themselves, we usually make a cardboard frame for them and sometimes reinforce that with lath. All very doable on a school situation. The other thing that a lot of our teachers do is use overhead projectors for other kinds of reasons and other kinds of effects. And Carol has been doing a lot of teaching, so I'll let her continue on about any insight she wants to bring from her teaching, or Moja for that matter too.
Moja, I'll let you answer about how the scenery panels are constructed and also how they are hung during the performance.
If we go back to 1113, you can see the whole thing right there. We have really shoddy carpentership because it's just as good as it needs to be and no better. And we have a bunch of frames that are made from cardboard and then reinforced with lath. Then we put 2 holes in each of the frames and hang them on nails on the wooden frame. Moja, do you want to continue on there?
Here,
yeah.
Here the panel. So this is the empty panels here. So we just put some the scenery. They have usually 2 hook, and then just hook at the scenery there. And after we finish it and take it down and put another scenery.
Yeah, so those wooden scene frames have screws on them, and like Moja said, the 2 holes that we poke into each scene frame makes it so we can easily hang them up on the wood. And in a classroom setting, I would suggest making a butcher paper screen. You can get rolls of white butcher paper, and then it's a little painstaking, but you can use clear heavy-duty packing tape to tape the seams together, and you can make a screen any size that you would like. And then it's great material because it doesn't show the light source.
It's very light as well, and you can use a string across the top and a couple of pick points and hang it anywhere.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think from the website, the Shadowlight production website, we have some performance with middle school, and we use the butcher paper and then tape it for the screens, using the screens. So instead plastic, we use a butcher paper. And there's on the website link on MLK, Martin Luther King's middle school production. So they have some example about screen over there.
Very cool.
Yeah, if anyone else who's an educator would like to, I think we have quite a few resources on the education page of our website. So we have a question here from Lydia Greer, who is a longtime collaborator with Shadowlight and one of our archivists. She would like to know, what was the most challenging scene to create in a Balinese Tempest? And Also, what is your favorite scene?
I don't know. I can't answer either of those questions, but what I can say is that in reviewing the whole show over the past few days, I think that the hardest thing to do was to come up with a good pacing for the entire show that would work in shadow. And I think we achieved that. The combination of going back and forth between the music and the dialogue, having visuals that you were unexpected, all of those things I think work together to make it successful. I thought that the opening storm scene with that little light plastic was okay. I wish I could have found other ways to do it, but it wasn't so bad. What else? I think I love the harpy scenes where all those, and also I like the live musician scene where you see the musicians in shadow. All of those things were very fun for me.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to say. I think it was really cool effect. I don't know if we can cue it up. Faith, can you cue it to like 55, 5450?
Yeah.
And then we can watch a little bit of that. And it's in this multi-light scene. You can see I think there were probably 3 lights. Is it who's doing the other channel? Is that Faith or is Carol doing it?
No,
Faith is probably loading it up unless something crashed. So we'll try to look at that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great. Turn it up though.
I warrant you, sir. The white cold virgin snow upon my heart abates the ardor of my liver.
Coming up.
Very well. Now watch. No tongue. All eyes.
All eyes. Be silent.
Well done! Come on!
I think that's
Come
enough.
on! I had forgot that.
So that's a balaganjur. That's a mobile marching band, right, Carla?
Yes.
One of the various kinds of gamelans we have in the show.
Yes, and the drummer was the composer.
Made Trip. I love the way drummers always look so, I don't know, important. Balinese drummers have this authority about them that is cool.
So
I'm looking, let's see, does anyone have any more questions about process or about the production or anything else? I have one question that's asking if this webinar will be available later to view and share on social media. And we are recording it, and possibly we could do that. If there's interest in that, please email me, and we may keep it on our Facebook page for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a question from Terry and Savannah, who want to know how long was the rehearsal process for this piece?
I think it was 6 or 8 weeks, but I don't remember exactly. It was way more than 3 or 4 weeks. And looking at the show, it amazes me how many moving elements we pulled together to do it.
It's such a large group of performers. Where were you rehearsing this piece, and were you able to get everyone together for the rehearsals?
Yeah, I think that the musicians would come less often than the actors and shadowcasters, but there would always be key musicians, I think, like Carla and Patrick, who would then go back and rehearse everybody else. Is that right, Carla? Is that how that worked?
Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember it kind of coming together really in the last week. We had some really intensive, long rehearsals in the last week, but before that, there was a lot of iterations. Like the script would change, and so of course that would mean the music would change. So I found some of my old notes, and they really just changed a lot up until a few days before the performance. So which made me think of something that might be worth mentioning, is that I think as an audience member, you don't maybe aren't aware of themes, but every character had its own musical theme, and even Ariel had a sound that we would do whenever that character showed up. So looking back at it, I found that was really interesting, because I know, like, working with silent film, it's the same kind of thing. You want to make sure you try to subconsciously thread connect the characters to a familiar sound for that character. It really helps, especially in shadows.
Yeah. And the rehearsal space we had was an exhibition hall at the Presidio. Now one of our most difficult challenges is coming up with rehearsal spaces, but all through the 90s and into the early 2000s, the city has been helpful in helping us find large spaces that we can occupy for months, which is what we need to rehearse. And now it's almost impossible.
Yeah, during the rehearsal process, I think we have every time, I think like 3 hours or even 4 hours rehearsal. For the preparations to make some set, make a puppet, so I have to do it at home. So otherwise, when we on a rehearsal, I'm not prepared. I'm not gonna make any puppet or anything. So we just focus with the whole group, with the whole people who involved with the projects. So for set or puppet itself, have to make it separate times, separate days, for example. Otherwise, no way we can pull it together for 6 weeks something. This
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
We would have afternoon rehearsals where we would try to figure things out and make things or identify what we needed to make. And then the evening rehearsals would have the full cast and most of the musicians.
And did you go every day? This is a question about the rehearsals. Also, was it full-time every day, or?
No, we generally don't rehearse more than 6 hours at a time. Usually 4 to 6 hours. And I'm sure we took breaks on the weekend or sometime or other, but I don't really remember. It's like 15 years ago. Yikes.
Maybe 4 days a week, I don't remember.
I don't think we did that with you. I just remember the last week being lots of rehearsals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of good long rehearsals. Got a lot done. But I think before that, the music and maybe we met once a week or something.
Mm. Yeah, it's not intense. That's for sure.
And who was the director of this show?
Well, me.
I know. Did you have a co-director? That was a question that was asked also.
No, I don't remember having a co-director. I think everybody becomes a co-director in a certain way because everybody has to be responsible for so many things at once.
So who was responsible for the integration? And I'm going to assume here with your question, Terry and Savannah, that the integration you mean is the integration of the music with the voices and the shadows. And that's Yes, that's what you mean. Okay.
Well, that was that last week of super intense rehearsal, and I think that what Carla explained earlier is a really good explanation. That we managed to identify um, our Shakespearean characters with Balinese shadow archetypes, and that gave us a clue in terms of the music, and then the actual in and out of it, which is, I think, so incredibly done here, happened in rehearsal. And I always was working through Carla to try to express my ideas to her so she could turn them into words that meant something to musicians.
We have a few more minutes left if anybody has any last minute questions here. Oh, I have another comment from Lynn. She thanked you all for talking about what was currently inspiring you and what were your coming projects, which you panelists can see in the Q&A here. And she also said, as an artist and actor, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to learn from all of you. Stay safe, be well, and keep creating. Let's see. And Deborah Bruce Hostler is asking, could we extend the free views for a few more days?
Yeah, let's do it till Wednesday.
Okay, so we will have it up until Wednesday next week. That will be free. I just want to reiterate that we just have it now that a Balinese Tempest has been edited beautifully by Kathleen Dargis. If any of you missed that, she was the editor for this film. Now that we have this film and we have it streaming on our website, it will remain there in perpetuity. We just wanted to have this sort of event to allow everybody to watch it for free, to make it more accessible, because free is always more accessible. And we'll go ahead and keep it free until Wednesday evening. And beyond that, it will still be available to be rented for a very small price, as well as a lot of our other films of our past productions. Let's see.
Calling all angels. Anybody out there who wants to do major support to video editing would be welcome to get in touch with us.
Oh, we also have a question. Is there a show at the Ballard Museum currently about Shakespeare and puppetry? And the answer is yes. There was an exhibition that was curated by Jungming Song at the University of Connecticut Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry. And that show includes, and maybe Faith, if we have some photos of the puppets that are up in that show, if you could show them. This exhibition opened on February 29th, and it's called Shakespeare and Puppetry, and it's up until June 7th, although I'm not sure if the museum is open for people to go in and look. But we sent some of the puppets and masks that were created by Moja for a Balinese Tempest to be part of this show. And we might be able to show you a picture of that, but you can definitely check it out on our Facebook page. And I'm not sure about the Ballard. They may have some images from the show. There's one. So Mojo, which puppets are those? Those are the...
Yes, all of them from the Shakespeare's. This is like from the spirits. It's all the puppet. Mostly the puppet is from the spirits.
The three ones on the bottom are Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo, who are the sort of the comic relief characters in the Tempest. And all the rest are harpies that are hounding them. And those are based on magical drawings from Bali.
Cool. Let's see, I'm not seeing. Oh, we have another comment. Oh, Matthew Cohen says, Jungmin says, thank you for mentioning her. Thank you so much for including us in the show, Jungmin. I'm really sad that this pandemic you know, among many, many things, caused it to be abruptly closed, it seems. We have a comment from Steve Tracy. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name. Shadow puppetry worked well with the Tempest, Larry. Good to see you again after watching you present Divisadero Street at Canyon Cinema, following our Peace Corps training. I even worked with Lynn Odenov on a traveling shadow puppet show in Panama.
Wow, cool. So cool.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up pretty soon here because we started at a little 10 after 3. It's almost 10 after 4. If anybody wants to wave or say hi, type into the Q&A and I can switch you from attendee to panelist and we'll be able to see you in a second. Oh, I have someone who raised their hand to talk. I might let this person, Jimmy Lee, if you are still there, I'm going to open it up if you would like to ask a question.
Hey, listen, guys. Carla knows I didn't get any sleep because of a problem with our family in New York City, or Brooklyn, rather. My brother-in-law, at 98 years old, fell off and fractured his hip. But listen, I did email you 2 questions, and one of I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I just did. The performance was amazing. I'm sorry you stopped the rehearsals too. I'm so glad I saw that part of that rehearsal here at Berkeley. But just keep on that work, and I emailed everybody I knew across the country and forwarded. So I'm sure they're going to watch it, and I'm sure you're going to hear from them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The question I had was, I've never heard of Tibetan opera in this country. Please email me or give Carla that info.
Okay, are you on Facebook?
No, just email.
Okay, I'll try to find if they have an email or not. They're often on Facebook.
You can forward that to Carla and she can get that info to me.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Thank you. So I know I extended that if anybody wanted to be visible and say hi, maybe just type into the Q&A box, let's say live hello, and I will make you a video person that can talk to everybody as well. If there are any live hellos and you would like to be seen and heard, type live hello. Otherwise, Annie Hallett says, hello, dear people, and waves hi.
Okay, great, Annie.
Oh, here she comes, live. Hi, Annie, hold 1 second, and I will make you that. All right, here she comes. We are wrapping up our Q&A, so this is kind of more the chat portion of it. Unless you have any last questions, Hank and I will work to make this seminar available so that if anybody wanted to go back and listen to some of the questions that were answered, we'll go ahead and announce that on Facebook, and we'll send out an email list. If you haven't had the opportunity to, go to the bottom of the screen. There's a place that says polling. There's a couple of questions that I had for you all that would be super helpful for us in planning any future events or streaming. If you could just answer those questions for me, I would greatly appreciate it. Looks like Steve Tracy also would like to be here. Annie, hi.
Hi, wonderful, wonderful story. Very important.
You know, and Annie is offered her studio to me when I began to invent this entire way of doing things, and
I just pulled up one of your very first two-sided masks. I have it saved for you.
Oh my gosh.
The size of your screen was so exciting. I think it was 16 feet.
Right. There was,
and it was a 10-foot high studio. So
right. We filled the screen.
3 months long. I remember that.
Yeah.
Serve thy best pleasure, be it to fly, to swim, to dive into.
Oh, what happened here?
I wanted to cut in here. Tashi chimed in here and said, in case people would like to hear more about their work on Tibetan opera, you can reach them at www.techung.com. And we'll post that up somewhere
To point the
we
Tempest.
can.
Oh, to every article I bought ship, in every carbon I flamed
I
amazement.
think we're hearing Steve here.
Not a
Oh,
leader of the mad and played some tricks of desperation.
But are they still safe?
Oh,
I don't know what's going on.
I'm not sure. So anybody else? Steve, did you have a question for us?
He's muted.
Oh, sorry, you are muted. Steve, did you have a question for us?
Am I muted? Can you hear the question?
We can hear you now, but we also are hearing, I think, the video that you're playing.
But
Oh,
there's more work.
gosh.
The
Yeah.
time twixt 6 and
Let me see if
now
I can-
must be
I don't know if I
spent
can
by
turn
us
that
both
off or not.
most precious.
I'm just getting used to Zoom. It's
Now,
not,
Moody,
up till
what
now
is
I've
it thou
hated it,
canst demand?
but now I might
Before
give
the
it
be
a shot.
out, no more.
I prithee, remember, I have done
Where is
thee
it?
worthy service.
Submissions.
Thou did promise to bait me a
There. Does that help?
Yes.
Yes, great.
Oh, hi, Larry.
Hi there. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, no, it has been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What was the name of that movie you showed at Canyon Cinema too? With the tuba going into Mexico and changing hands.
I'm not remembering right now.
It was one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. There was one, it might have been,
There were fireworks in it.
oh, fireworks. No, I was thinking of Aware America, which was about the Zodiac killer being hunted by a cab driver.
Oh, well, I don't think there were.
Anyway, no, I don't know which one that was right
I
now.
doubt if there was any tuba players in that one.
No, right.
Rose Nisker says, thanks everyone. This was so fun and brought back so many wonderful memories. XOXO.
It's good to be the king. One of Rose's favorite statements.
She typed that into the Q&A when she arrived. She's laughing, haha. All right, one last thing. No question, but thanks so much for all that you have contributed to the field of shadow theater practice. Thanks for this beautiful production. Thank you, Larry Reed, for your help on the journey of creating. We're all in this together in Vancouver, Canada.
All right, Terry and Savannah, thank you.
And Lydia Greer says, great to see you all. See you next time. Beautiful work, great collaboration, and such a light during this difficult time.
Good.
All right. And yeah, once again, for anybody who missed it, if you wanted to find out more about Tibetan opera, go to www.techung.com. If you missed that or anything else, email us at info@shadowlight.org. And I don't see any more burning desires on here, so.
All right, well.
Rose has to do this type of thing again. I guess while you know the rest of you are still here, I would really love to do this type of thing again, and that's actually what we plan to do. So part of the polling was me asking how you all found out about this and how you'd like to find out about it. We will be releasing some of our other filmed productions for free. There are many that are already streaming on our website right now. It costs less than $6 to rent them. So if that's something that's affordable to you, I encourage you to go and check out whatever else we have. But we will be curating a sort of limited series where we release some of these films for free, and we get together a panelist of people who were involved in the creation of those productions to discuss them as well. So if you are interested in that, sign up for our mailing list on our website, donate, and also just check out our social media
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.